You're listening to the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Wednesday to all of you and yours. Jamie Allman here, and this is the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL 101.9, 94.1, and everywhere sticky, Truth Social, Facebook, X, YouTube, my Facebook page, NewsTalkSTL's Facebook page. We're all over the place, and you can't escape me. Oh, yes. So we've got the feds cutting interest rates. We've got the audience for David Muir cutting their viewership post-debate. We have the Teamsters looking like they're cutting their traditional support of Democrats as the Teamsters release their polling of its membership. And 58% of the Teamsters said we're for Trump, compared to 31 or whatever it was for Kamala Harris. That's groundbreaking. We'll talk to Rick Pogue, our business guru, as he joins us just a little bit later on, plus that about the interest rates as well. He's got a lot to say. And yeah, we're going to get off to the races here. And I'm going to begin the show being petty, childish, gratuitous, nitpicky, and maybe a little bit mean, you know. I just want to, I really, you know, when you kind of accuse somebody of being drunk or drunks or whatever, it's really kind of mean and not very provable in many cases. But I got to tell you, yesterday there was a little bit of a soundbite coming out of this ridiculous confab with the black journalist, which was just outrageous. And by now you've been there, done that, had the T-shirt on that. But I don't know whether you've ever experienced, I'm sure you have. Ethan, I'm sure you have. Ethan Valencia, maybe, and check me if I'm wrong. You know, have you ever been at a party, you know, and you get cornered by the drunk person, you know, the person, male, female, whatever. With the females, usually it's the one, you know, it gets later into the evening and her lips are stained red and so are her teeth from drinking wine. And I have to tell you that this is how Kamala Harris sounded. Like that person who kind of corners you and they're kind of wild-eyed a little bit and they're kind of looking at you all the time, like constantly, and just talking to you endlessly about something and just going on and on and on. Ethan, that's happened to you, right? I mean, you're old enough by now to...
It happens more often than it doesn't. I don't know what it is. I'm used to that now.
Maybe you're just a mark. I don't know. Maybe you just look like the empath at the party. And that's usually who these people gravitate towards. They gravitate towards the person. They're kind of scoping the room to see who the weak person is in the room who's going to listen to them. You know what I mean? It happens to me all the time. Mainly because I'm so friendly and open, right? But anyway, that's how Kamala Harris sounded yesterday for a few minutes. I mean, you be the judge of that.
It's a crying shame. I mean, my heart breaks for this community. You know, there were children, elementary school children, who it was school photo day. You remember what that's like?
You see?
Going to school on picture day?
Am I not kidding here?
I see what you mean.
It was school photo day. And do you remember what it was like at school photo day? So excited. And this is about something obviously totally on another subject for her. She's talking about the schools closing and everything else, but she has to go into this like, you know, have you seen that before? Do you remember when you had your, and of course that drunk person always asks you the question, not intending for you in any way, shape, or form to answer. You know what that's like? Yeah, I know. Anyway, you know, and you start to like answer the question. Oh yeah, I remember picture. Oh, anyway. So it's so sad, don't you think? You know.
Dressed up in their best, got all ready, knew what they were going to wear the night before.
You see?
And had to be evacuated.
Oh.
Children.
Children had to be evacuated. You believe that? They're babies. They were once in the womb. So comfortable. Imagine having to evacuate a child from the womb. And actually, Kamala knows a little bit about that because that's called abortion. But nonetheless, you know, just
a
sad.
whole community put in fear. And I'll say a couple things about it. One, you know, I learned a long time ago in my...
Okay, so you get my drift. And sometimes it might not be because she's drunk. It might be because she's filibustering, because she's, you know, answering this long question. And so you're either drunk or you're dumb, and you're trying to filibuster with stuff that's non sequitur like and isn't even relevant to the situation or what have you. And they give like this amazing amount of importance to something that is trivial and what have you. And so that's really what I wanted to start with, because it was just grating on me, and I know you connect to it. And I know each one of you have the stories of people who are like, you know.
Having a background
anyway
as a prosecutor. When you have these positions, when you have that kind of microphone in front of you.
You get it. So on a more serious note, with the Kamala and Walz campaign, what they're doing now is just outright lying about President Trump's intended policies, and they're going out there and just spreading lies and not thinking they're going to be fact-checked, because it really doesn't matter, because your comments air anyway. And so they're out there, and in this case, Tim Walz says something completely outrageous, totally untrue, and repeats this lie. This is in Nashville, and USA Today fact checks it as absolutely wrong. Even Snopes does. But Walz knows, and all these lying liberals know, all these lying Democrats know, all these lying Republicans know. By the way, did you see the list of 100 Republicans have now said they support Kamala Harris? Like, it's always got to be 100, right? They'll sign a letter and do whatever. I'll get to that a little later on. They're the usual suspects. They don't matter to you. And so in this case, so Walz just throws it out there, and nobody's really going to go and check Snopes or check USA Today or whatever. And so Walz lies.
And now Trump is trying to create this new government entity that will monitor all pregnancies to enforce their abortion bans.
That's a complete and total lie. A complete and total lie.
And look, these are stories that we hear, and I got to tell you.
Okay, so then he says, well, these are stories that we hear to try to rationalize his statement, which is as a matter of fact. So he's like, these are stories we hear and blah, 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 blah. But the reality is that doesn't provide him cover. That doesn't excuse the fact that he's a complete and total liar like all these other people are. And you remember back in the day, you remember McCain and Palin, and you remember the death panels. Remember those? And they said that the Republican plan for health care is going to create these death panels that will decide, you know, who's going to live and who's going to die. Remember that? That's one of them, again, one of the more famous lies. And so what the Walz and Harris campaign are doing is they're lying about President Trump's policies or intended policies, while at the same time lying about their own policies. But they're lying about their policies that are on the record and their viewpoints that are on the record and just changing them in mid-speak. And so what this lie does, among the many lies they tell, what it does is it distracts from their intended policies. And so they create all these boogeymen and all these boogie issues and in the boogie capital of the USA, and they act as if that's the policy. They throw it out there when their real policies they're covering for and lying about also to hide the fact that their real policies are there. Kamala Harris repeatedly and has repeatedly lied about her viewpoint of guns. We're not taking your guns away. We're gun owners, so we're not taking your guns away. Whoever said that? Well, you did, Kamala. This is and fortunately, it's all on video. So this is Kamala Harris a while back, and I'm really thinking and really happy about the Twitter account called the Trump War Room. They do some really great work in the Trump War Room, and they keep on pushing out these videos and everything else. I'm not sure the left sees them, or even the media for that matter. They obviously don't, because they perpetuate this lie over the lie that somehow Kamala Harris isn't anti-gun and doesn't ultimately want a gun confiscation program. She doesn't that she doesn't want to really outlaw, or she might just kind of put these little things in there with the so-called assault weapons. But this is her on tape saying that she has no qualms about going into people's homes to make sure that they are safely storing their guns.
Responsible behaviors among everybody in the community, and just because you legally possess a gun in the sanctity of your locked home doesn't mean that we're not going to walk into that home and check to see if you're being responsible and safe in the way you conduct your affairs.
Can you believe that? Well, of course you can. I'm like, why am I asking you? Yes. And so not only that, what's interesting is that she says that she points out and says you're locked home for some reason. So she's even threatening to go in through a locked door. The government going in through a locked door to check on your comportment as it relates to your gun ownership. So it's crazy. She even calls it the sanctity of your locked home. Doesn't mean we're not going to walk in and check on you.
Responsible behaviors among everybody in the community, and just because you legally possess a gun in the sanctity of your locked home doesn't mean that we're not going to walk into that home and check to see if you're being responsible and safe in the way you conduct your affairs.
Yeah, well, and we all know there was only one human on Earth who managed to go through a locked door and walk through a locked door the way she envisions the government doing, and that, of course, was Jesus. So, and that's in the Bible, and it happened, and he went through a locked door. But that's the only person I know who has the right, or, whatever you might want to call it, to go through a locked door. But this is unbelievable. This is on the record. She said this, and nobody ever challenges her on it, which is really incredible. But the way of the world. She's allowed to simply say things and cover for things that she's already said on tape, and acting like she never said it, and never acted like she is an intended gun grabber, and then just simply lies about her policies, while at the same time parallel lying about Trump's policies. It's unbelievable, and she's deserving everything she gets from the public, which is now even the Teamsters seem to be turning their backs on Kamala Harris. We'll talk more about that with the Allman Report, News Talk STL, business guru, my friend and yours, Rick Pogue, plus about the interest rates and how that might be affecting you. Rick always has his finger on the pulse of the business community and when it comes to our finances. And so he's going to be on with me next. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
You're listening to the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Good evening, everyone. 104.9 and 94.1 and everywhere sticky on social media. You know, I always loved Rick Pogue, but I didn't know the thorough love of Rick Pogue because when we were talking about suggested music intros for his regular hit on the Allman Report every week, he brought up like one of my absolute all-time favorite bands, the Talking Heads. I'm like, dude, really? Oh, yeah. This must be the place. We'll do that one from Wall Street. And I said, that's perfect. Plus, it gives me an excuse to play the Talking Heads. And, of course, you know David Byrne, who's an absolute unbelievable genius and showman and great writer and fantastic performer, also, of course, sings the theme song to Common Sense Radio, which I've had since the very beginning for 20 years now as my intro. In fact, I remember hearing it. It's from an album called Red Hot and Blue, and it's a bunch of people doing Cole Porter hits. And Don't Fence Me In is a Cole Porter hit. There was Sting was doing Summertime on there. It's a great album, by the way, if you ever check it out. That's where it came from. And I remember hearing it, and because I love David Byrne so much, and I love the version of that Don't Fence Me In, of course. And I said, even before I had a radio show, if I ever have a radio show, that's going to be my theme song. And so dreams live. And now dreams continue to live with David Byrne and the Talking Heads being the intro to my buddy and business guru for the Allman Report, Rick Pogue. Rick, how you doing? How you doing, man?
Doing well, my friend. How are you?
Good. After we had that conversation, all I did was listen to the talk. I went through my whole library of Talking Head stuff. I've listened to him since I was a kid, and just incredible. But good call on the intro. All right, so
love that, man.
Yeah, lots to cover, and including the 0.5% cut in the interest rates the Fed announced today. Powell speaking about it as well. And from a business and even personal perspective, how do you think that's going to affect anything? And do you think this is some kind of bailout regarding the economy to help Kamala Harris?
Yes, I do. It probably is, but that's okay because any kind of cut in the interest rate is good for investment, and it's good for housing. I just wish more millennials wanted to own a house, or not millennials. It's the Gen Zers really. You know, they the kids of millennials. A lot of them they don't want to own a house. So, but no, I think it'll stimulate the economy. The house there's a lot of houses out there right now that are sitting empty, and I'm hoping this will help get things going. So the short answer is yes. I think it's going to get some investment going, and that's what we want. We want money changing hands, and we want people to be unafraid to pull it out of their pocket, which that's the opposite of what this administration has been doing.
Right, and I don't think that this cut is really going to see any impact at all. I mean, people aren't going to really see it until well after the election anyway. So whether or not it's there to juice the hopes of Kamala Harris, I mean, obviously Wall Street's going to react and is reacting positively and did react positively to it. So we know that's okay for the 401ks and stuff out there. So, you know, it's good news, even if it is all by design. Whatever, we'll take it in that sense.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this a lot. I mean, the economy is about confidence. A free market is all about confidence. And like I said, money exchanging hands and stimulates everything. If people are confident that they're not going to be overtaxed, and the interest rates aren't going to be too high. So yeah, I mean, it's always a good thing, even if the motive is not on the level. It's always a good thing when tax rates come down and interest rates come down, of course.
Yeah, and we are in the fourth quarter, so to speak, and I know that there are a lot of businesses that are holding tight on their money, on investments, and on marketing and all that kind of stuff because fourth quarter, and they're waiting for the election. They're waiting to see what's going to happen before they start spending or maybe even investing or even building more. Everybody's kind of in a holding pattern right now, wouldn't you say?
Oh, definitely. And that's what happens. There's a lot of people waiting. People remember what it was like when Donald Trump was president from 2016 to 2020. They remember that we had the strongest economy probably in our entire history. They remember the unemployment rate, how low it was. They remember, like we talked about last week, all the repatriating all the money, bringing all the money back that's been sent overseas because they're trying to hide it from the government because they're being overtaxed. All kinds of positive things happen when you have a president that understands how a free market system works and really knows what manufacturers need and what employees need. Donald Trump, is the best friend union the rank and file union members have ever had.
Yeah,
they're still being told to support the Democrat Party, they want them to be blindly loyal, but people are waking up.
They sure are, and I know throughout your career you've worked very closely with union guys before, and you know their sentiments, and you know how they feel, and public employee unions are one thing, but the trades, we have respect for, and so does Donald Trump. And it turns out that the Teamsters release a poll of its membership. And so that poll is showing that the support for Donald Trump is right around 58% among the Teamsters and about 31 for Kamala Harris. I don't even know how that 31 came about, or 33, but it still hovers around there. I don't even know how these people could possibly think that Kamala Harris is good for unions and will be good for their futures, but that's really a good sign.
It is a good sign. I don't know either, Jamie. I mean, I think in the union population, just like in our general population, there are a lot of people that are just ignorant, meaning they don't really pay attention to politics. They just blindly support the Democrat Party, and because their father did and their grandfather did, and what they don't realize is it's not their grandfather's party anymore.
Yeah,
that party's gone, and it's never coming back.
Well, yeah, at one time, there might have been a good reason to support the Democrats in some ways, a long time ago when they actually were more conservative and not as radical as they are now. And so I think that's really some good news. You sent me something, and you've been really on this. I love the fact that not only are you the business guru, but you pay attention to things that are going on in school systems and at the community level. And earlier today, you had sent me an example. Because, first of all, Johnny's Hideout, people, you got to get down there. It's in Jefferson County. It's absolutely just crazy wonderful. The staff there is absolutely excellent. The drinks there are fantastic. The beer is the coldest you're going to find anywhere. And the wings are great. The food is great. Johnny's Hideout in Jefferson County. And Rick, of course, is the co-owner of Johnny's Hideout. And by the way, I saw a guy who was, I'll have to talk to you offline about it, but who played out at the Bush Family Brewery. And I said, man, you need to come down. You need to play at Johnny's Hideout, because you guys do have music down there, right?
Oh yeah. We have music 5 or 6 nights a week.
Oh, good. Okay, perfect. Yeah. I got his card and everything for you. His name is, I know we're supposed to talk offline about this, but it's, first things first, Rich Hauk. And he was really good. He plays a lot of covers of stuff that you and I are familiar with and grew up with. So I'll talk to you that again. But anyway, to my point, it's in Jefferson County. And Rick sent me something earlier coming to us from which school was that? Do you remember?
I had to zoom in on the picture, but looks like it's a Farmington school district.
Oh, right.
And our good buddy Mark Schmitz, father of a Gold Star father. Of Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz. He shared that post, and that's where I saw it. So I drilled down and started looking in there, and So this guy, this gentleman's daughter, I guess in the Farmington School District, she took some kind of online test about gender, and it asked. She answered the question correctly, but it was the wrong answer because there were two options on her head. Did you zoom in and look at those yet? One of them was how many genders are there?
Yeah.
The correct answer is 2, which is what you checked, but that was they marked it incorrect, and it actually said, no, there's more than 2. There's non-binary and others. And she got the question wrong. And there were 2 questions on there that showed that she got it wrong. It's just, it's disgusting. It is what's scary to me is the lunacy that comes out of the left. Okay. And I don't say the Democrat Party, but they own the left. But the lunacy that comes out of there, 10 years ago, we all just recognized it was just crazy. Now it's becoming the norm. It's mainstream. And I don't know if it's the shaming. I don't know what it is that is making people with common sense accept this ridiculous stuff that we know is not true. Where does it end? Where does it end? It's hurting our children. It's going to kill our country. You've got kids that are claiming that they're cats now, and they're putting litter boxes in schools, and we're losing our damn minds.
Yeah.
And if we stop it, we're going to lose our country.
Yeah, and I zoomed in on the other screenshot you sent me, and the other question was, what determines gender? And one answer was the brain. Gender is what you identify with, or sex. If you are both male, then you will always identify with the male gender. If you were born male, and the right answer is the brain.
Yeah, whatever you want it to be.
Yeah,
that's the right answer.
Yeah,
I mean, lunacy.
Yep. Well, and this also begs the question, because I never thought that schools should be in the business of even teaching this kind of stuff, because it's really all just propaganda. And I realize people go, yeah, but you got to have health class because not everybody has a parent. It's like, oh, shut. I mean, same thing I think about religion, unless, of course, you send your kids to a religious school, which I do. But I don't believe that the public school system is equipped to handle this kind of heavy machinery that should be handled at the family level and not at the school level.
Totally agree. I've got 5 kids, Jamie, and the older 4 are up. They all come through public school. Our 10-year-old is in private school, and he's been there since kindergarten, and he will stay there. I would never put a kid in public school today. You just can't do it, because you're opening them up to things that are just, in my opinion, just evil, and it's state sponsored. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
I would. And you hear about these stories all the time, and you're starting to hear them from, areas like Farmington and, red areas. You're starting to see this in public schools. Once we go there, you expect that in blue areas, blue schools areas, but you don't expect that in, rural Missouri and places like that where we know it's God's country.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm just not a fan. I'm just not a fan of the Department of Education at all.
Yeah. God's country south, right? Like God's country west. And it is crazy, though, because we've seen actually this permeation of left-wing lunacy in the school districts, even in God's country west and God's country south. These people are all, I guess, moving down there and then poisoning the well with their liberalism.
Yes, they are. And that dovetails nicely into, where they're sending these migrants, these illegal migrants they're bringing in here. I think they're strategically putting them in cities and in states they want them to be in to over time influence the vote and change the demographics.
Yeah.
For the Democrats, it's all about a Republican never ever winning again. They're in the long game. They're playing the long game.
Well, and so
we're trying to be honest and real.
I totally agree with you, and it's interesting you point that out regarding especially Springfield, Ohio, where they dumped 20,000 Haitians in there and still haven't explained why they did it. I mean, the only explanation I got was from this idiot John Legend who said, well, you know, it's a growing economy and there aren't enough people to fill jobs down there. And so I'm like, well, no. There are plenty of people to fill jobs in mid-Ohio and beyond, even if and many people left Springfield because of the economy taking a dip and they moved out. Well, let's have them move back in then and take those jobs. Why are you shipping in a bunch of Haitians to take the jobs? But you just pointed out, of course, there's a reason why they do it, and it's pretty obvious why they're doing it.
Yeah, that's what his hometown needed, right? A lecture from John Legend in his bathrobe and his $1 million bathroom and his multi-million-dollar mansion.
Yeah.
You know, very condescending. Just calm down. You know, they work hard. They're doing jobs that you won't do. I watched that video. I was just like, wow.
Yep. Yeah, and by the way, the bathroom he was wearing was like from a hotel. It's like, dude, unbelievable. But yeah,
those people in Hollywood, they're in such a bubble, Jamie. They're detached from reality.
Right on. Well, folks, if you want to see Rick every once in a while, he's down there at Johnny's Hideout. And, of course, he's on the Allman Report on a regular basis, on a weekly basis. And don't forget, too, we have our vice presidential candidate debate watch party October 1st at Johnny's Hideout. I will be there. I know Rick will, too. It's always a hoot for all of us good people to gather in one place. And so that's going to be fun on October 1st, brother.
Yeah, and that'll be your first one, won't it, with the station? So
yeah,
we're excited about having you there. And and folks, if you haven't been to one of these debate parties at Johnny's Hideout, they are a lot of fun, and there are a lot of local politicians there, people that make the county run. It's worth coming out and shaking hands with these people, and then of course getting to meet Jamie and Tim Jones, Chris Arps will be doing their show there. It's a great time.
Yeah.
It's well worth it.
Yeah, and I think I met for the first time the Jefferson County Sheriff down there at the last time we went out. So, yeah, you're right. A lot of really great people show up, and so it's a ton of fun, and we'll see you guys on October 1st. So mark your calendars for that. It's a Tuesday, so we'll be out there with bells on, and, of course, Chris and Tim doing their show in the afternoon from there. So, Rick Pogue, always great. Thank you for the insight, brother. Always good to see you. Really appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Love you.
Thank you. Love you, too. That is the great Rick Pogue, our business guru and beyond here on the Allman Report. All right, coming up, it looks like David Muir is paying a high price for his idiot performance as the debate moderator. In fact, it's stunning, the ratings drop he has received since that time. I'll explain that to you. Also, Mossad, man, they are going nuts. They're running the tables. Now it's walkie-talkies blowing up, but also solar systems that the Mooj have at their home. So it's really rocking there in Lebanon, thanks to the brilliance of Mossad. I'll follow up on that as well. This is the Allman Report. Happy Wednesday evening to all of you.
You're listening to the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
Good Wednesday evening, everyone. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL 109.1 and 94.1. Did I get that right?
101.9.
No, 101.9. What am I doing?
You're thinking too much about the music.
I am. I am. I've been saying 101.9 forever now, and then suddenly I'm like 109, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm... Oh, Lordy. Stick with me, Ethan. You'll be confused like the rest of them. So here's what happened to ABC's World News Tonight. Now, my mom, my 95-year-old mom, she watches NBC News all the time, Lester Holt, you know, and so she doesn't watch David Muir. And I see her, you know, every once in a while, and it's usually around the time of the news. And, you know, I feel like I always have to correct the newscasts, you know, because we do see each other, but we, you know, it comes on. And so there's a news story. And she's, oh, look what happened. Look what happened, whatever. And I'm like, I know, but that didn't really happen. But then I just get, you know, we have a couple vodkas and read some scripture together and just talk. But watching the news for at least the few minutes that we do, I just can't tolerate it and just don't say anything, you know. So I guess my mom is a lot more liberal than I am. Let's put it that way. All right. So anyway, with ABC World News Tonight, here's what happened. So viewers apparently are reacting, and maybe it's not a reaction, but for whatever reason, his numbers have tanked in the 3 days since the debate. So during the event on September 10th, you know that Muir and Lindsey Davis fact-checked Trump a million times and never fact-checked Kamala Harris at all, let her get away with lie after lie after lie. So here are the numbers coming out of the ratings for David Muir's World News Tonight since that debate. So Muir's World News Tonight, I'm reading from this report, and it says Muir's World News Tonight averaged 6.7 million viewers on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Those are the 3 episodes following the debate. Now, before the debate, the average viewership was 7.6 million. So he dropped almost 1 million viewers since the debate, just if you judge that 1 week. Now, for instance, I can't imagine, I don't know, do you all watch the news? Do you all watch ABC or NBC or CBS News in the evening time? I don't. I would never do it because it's not good for my blood pressure or whatever. Even if I am having a vodka with my mom, it doesn't help my blood pressure to watch these damn newscasts. But it's kind of surprising, but I guess, you know, conservatives do watch network news also, so I get it. So, but for some reason, his numbers dropped significantly. And that's bad news. When you almost lose 1 million viewers, you lose almost 1 million viewers since your debate performance. Like people just didn't watch in the numbers they did in the 3 days after the debate. Now, whether that's going to pick up again or whatever, but there are a lot of people really unhappy with what's going on and what happened in that debate. So the numbers are what they are. And to drop that significantly in any kind of viewership is really hugely significant in that business. It's pretty significant, and they have to be a little worried about whether or not the guy who is leading their newscast is seen by a significant number of viewers as impartial and a real journalist, which he proved obviously that he is not impartial in any way, shape, or form. So today, over in Lebanon, Mossad is at it again. As you know, yesterday with the beepers blowing up, it looks like I was mistaken about some of the initial reports that indicated that it was a planting of malware that overheated the beepers and blew them all up. And of course, at that time, you probably were thinking, yeah, I know, but how did they all blow up at the same time, Allman, if it's true that it was malware? And you're right. They were apparently detonation devices inside the beepers. And that's how they all went off basically at the same time. Now, of course, I also told you that this equipment was part of a new shipment shipped to the Muj through Iran and beyond. But somewhere along the line, somebody in Mossad got a hold of these things, or somebody working with Mossad got a hold of these things and planted detonation devices in them. And so today, the walkie-talkies started to explode. This time, I'm reading you numbers that might change over the course of the evening, but 9 were killed. 9 of the Muj, the walkie-talkie carrying Muj, were killed in that, and a few hundred injured. This is what it sounds like when your walkie-talkie blows up, or at least in the aftermath of it. That's translated, look, their walkie-talkies just blew up. And maybe we should stop doing what we're doing and being terrorists. So the walkie-talkies actually exploded at a funeral for one of the guys who died by an exploding pager. So the walkie-talkies went off and blew up, one of them at a funeral for one of these guys. And there they bury people pretty fast. They don't wait too long. And so the next day, today, there was a funeral and the walkie-talkie blew up at the funeral. Mossad is just absolutely relentless. There's a video of a motorcycle that had a walkie-talkie in it that exploded. And this motorcycle is just incinerated. And they didn't actually, there wasn't anybody killed on the motorcycle because it was sitting on the motorcycle apparently, so I don't know. And then a Mercedes was burning on fire. This thing is in flames because someone in it had the walkie-talkie, and of course they're driving Mercedes. How quaint. And that blew up too. But that's not the only thing that Mossad is doing. By the way, there's also this crazy footage of the explosion from in a cell phone store, and one of these guys had a walkie-talkie there too, and that thing exploded right in their face. Didn't kill anybody, but it absolutely exploded. They're apparently working on it in this cell phone shop, and it blew up in the guy's hand. But that's not the only. I want to do one more of the sound of a walkie-talkie blowing up. So these are a bunch of walkie-talkies that were being stored in a building in Beirut, and they were going off one after another. It was precious. I mean, I just can't get enough of this. And so that blew up. So now, that's not the only thing, apparently, that Mossad has managed to rig now. So now it looks like home solar systems are exploding all over the place, following the walkie-talkie and the pager detonations. And so Mossad is absolutely after these guys in a big way, and I wouldn't want to be them right now because you don't know what else has a detonation device on it. It's kind of like we're like in mafia zone now where you don't know when you open your door or you pick up a cell phone or whatever. And the reason why they were carrying the walkie-talkies as well as the beepers is because the head of Hezbollah ordered them not to use cell phones anymore because they could so easily be tracked. Well, apparently, their beepers and walkie-talkies and their solar systems can be tracked too. This is the sound of home solar energy systems exploding in several areas in Beirut. So these guys are all having their home solar systems. Those too have been rigged with explosives. I mean, it's glorious. I mean, this is great. And of course, the news media, even in America now, is again saying, this isn't fair, this isn't right, Mossad, Israel, the IDF, these guys are mean. Never even thinking about the fact that the Muj and the Hezbollah are absolute vermin and terrorists and are deserving of everything they're getting. So, man, if I'm over there, the message has been sent. I don't know what else is going to happen, but this is like the day after. So Mossad isn't happy about what these Muj are doing to Israelis and to Jews, and they're going to make them pay and are making them pay, and that's the latest. Hey, check this out. A musician writes a song, and it just has been introduced today about Donald Trump, and you're going to hear it maybe for the first time on the other side of this on the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy Wednesday evening.
You're listening to the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here. You can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Wednesday to all of you and yours. This is the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL, 101.9, 94.1, people. You like some Pharrell Williams for your Wednesday evening? Well, guess what? You're going to like Pharrell even more. Because he has come out with his own version of Shut Up and Sing. Yeah, he told the Hollywood Reporter, and this is an article in the Hollywood Reporter now, and he said, some of these people ought to just play music. They ought to just stop getting involved in politics. And he says, I don't do politics. In fact, I get annoyed sometimes when I see celebrities trying to tell you who to vote for. There are celebrities that I respect, and have an opinion, but not all of them. I'm one of them people who say, what the heck, shut up. Nobody asked you. When people get out there and get self-righteous and they roll up their sleeves and shirt and they're out there walking around with a placard, shut up. So no, I would rather stay out of the way, and obviously I'm going to vote how I'm going to vote. I care about my people. I care about this country, but I feel there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I'm all really, in the end, about action. Now, you all know I have never really been a shut up and sing guy. I actually am more inclined to give many people in the celebrity world some degree of benefit in terms of how they use their platform. So to me, here I am with the privilege of being able to yammer at you on a nightly basis with a microphone and a platform. Why would I tell somebody else who is in a similar state, although obviously I'm not at the level of a celebrity, but you know what I mean, to shut their mouth and not say something about which they're passionate. So that doesn't bother me. Taylor Swift endorsing Kamala Harris, I didn't care one way or the other about that. Speaking of that, by the way, the Taylor Swift and Kelsey relationship is now coming back and being talked about on ESPN, and I'll follow up on that because it's Stephen A. Smith now blaming that relationship on Kelsey's poor performance against the Bengals, and we'll talk more about that. I'm not so sure about Stephen A. Smith. He's one of those guys, sometimes you like him, sometimes you don't. If you agree with him, you like him. If you don't agree with him, you don't. That kind of thing. He's just kind of like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But again, Taylor Swift endorses Kamala Harris. Taylor Swift is a self-made woman. She's done a lot of great work for fellow artists. I think she's enormously talented. She's probably one of the most talented lyricists of the modern music era, writes most of her own stuff, and I think she's very talented. I don't like the fact that she endorsed Kamala Harris, but I also kind of don't care. And I don't begrudge her for saying what she thinks, because I say what I think every day. I wouldn't want to take that away from somebody. Now, they're annoying sometimes, like De Niro's annoying, but I can hardly blame him for trying to exploit his star capital to try to influence other people, even though he's wrong all the time. And sometimes, of course, when people shut up and sing, it's a good thing. Because in this case, there's a guy with Breitbart, and you guys know the Breitbart website. They do some really great work. And I go to them all the time. They've just got some great stuff. It's great for breaking news, and they're just really good at what they do. Breitbart does some really great stuff. So Breitbart has a guy who also happens to be a singer-songwriter. His name is John Kahn, and he sat down at the piano. And they say he had one simple thought. What kind of man could withstand the relentless barrage of attacks that have been leveled at former President Donald Trump? The answer is very simple. According to John Kahn, a fighter. So he's released this official music video, which is pretty darn good, actually. And the music itself, the song itself is pretty good. Here's how it goes. You see a picture of Donald Trump kind of walking down a hallway, all badass and everything else, you know.
I've been down, counted out, smiling through the taste of blood in my own mouth.
Wow.
I got bruises and broken bones, but they don't know I ain't in this ring alone. I'm a fighter. No one can say that I'm a running hider.
By the way, this is a really well-written song. That's pretty good. Ethan Valencia, all right, your dad's a musician, and he's also a great writer. And do you think that's pretty good writing, don't you think?
Oh,
for what it is, I mean, you know.
yeah, it's like kind of, I don't know, heartwarming is not the right word, maybe. I don't know. It's inspirational.
Yeah, sometimes these political songs they sound kind of hacky because they're not really, they're not as well written as a song like this. You know what I mean? This I'm like, I could really see this, and I could listen to it.
I would listen to it on the radio.
Yeah, I could listen to it without even seeing Trump. And I think that's a good test of the music, because I can listen to it without even seeing Donald Trump, because I think everybody to some degree who has been through a lot could probably put themselves in this song, and especially the idea that, you know, I'm a fighter, but I'm not alone. And that's true. I could take it a step further and say I'm not alone because God is always there. So I'm never alone. Even if I'm alone on the earth with people around me, I'm never alone with God. But I'm not trying to put words in here. I am. I'm writing another song. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm just, you know. But I get it. If you close your eyes and listen to it, you could see how it could be a song even if you didn't see Donald Trump in it. And the images in the music video are fantastic.
They don't know I ain't in this ring alone. I'm a fighter. No one can say that I'm a running hider.
Plus, he's got a great voice. And you guys are like, Allman, stop interrupting the song. Okay.
I was born to be a do-or-dyer, a make-it-righter. Don't throw that towel just yet. Don't cash in that last bet. 'Cause I hit harder when I'm tired. I'm a fighter. I get back up. That's what I do. I didn't soldier on this far just to lose. So take your shot. Is that all you got? I'm a fighter. No one can say that I'm a running hider. I was born to be a do-or-dyer, a make-it-righter. Don't throw that towel just yet. Don't cash in that last bet. 'Cause I hit harder when I'm tired. Yeah, I'm a fighter. Oh, no one can keep me down. They didn't know, but they know now. That I'm a fighter. No one can say that I'm a running hider. Don't cash in that last bet. Don't throw that towel just
great visuals in this video. Unbelievable. And the last video is him with his fist up after getting shot. It's really, really good. And you guys know there are a lot of these people who do this. I'm just Donald Trump. It's like, it's not as entertaining and as deep and as goosebumpy creating as this one is. And then you look at the video itself, and you realize through the video, you're watching the video, and there's no resizing of Donald Trump in the video. There's no AI stuff. There's no fakery in the video. And you realize, like, dude, that Trump's a big dude. Like, he fits the part. It's crazy. Like, he's bigger than everybody who is in the video when he's next to them. It's like really kind of like, wow. You kind of realize that. And after seeing him as often as I have, sometimes even, within feet, that kind of thing, and shaking his hand even at a rally in St. Louis, the guy is bigger than life. And I know that some of you are like, God, Allman's like fanboying to no degree, but you can't deny it. You can't ignore that. And especially when you put it this way, like John Kahn did, it's pretty incredible. So I'll post it later on as well, and I'll put it up there, or maybe during the comments section I can maybe slip it in. I don't know. You guys can find it, though, and it's really, really a good one, and I hope you share it. I also hope that you like and share the show as much as you possibly can. Just want to make sure everybody knows that I'm back on the air. So anyway, this music video, you do realize and you see kind of the bigger-than-life physical presence of Donald Trump. And you know what's crazy about all this? Is here's a guy, and I guarantee you the Republicans who hate Donald Trump hate something like this. Because let me tell you something, we who have been supporting Republicans for as long as we have been waiting forever for a leader in the Republican Party like this. We've been waiting forever for a guy who actually could be such the common man, as uncommon as he is. We've been waiting for someone like this ever since Ronald Reagan. And I do have no problems comparing Donald Trump to Ronald Reagan, not only in many of his policies, but also in his presence. And they tried to get at Ronald Reagan, tried to shoot him too, obviously. They tried to get at him by making fun of him and saying he's too old and all this kind of stuff. But you couldn't take his formidable stature, his joy and zest for life, his obvious intelligence. You couldn't take that away from him. And so it makes all the other people around Donald Trump who criticize him, especially the Republicans, it makes them look so small. It makes them look so petty. It makes them look so nasty, jealous, bitter. It makes them all look like a bunch of betas. It makes them all look like there's another reason why they don't like him. And it's not the reasons that they happen to tell you why they don't like him, because he makes them look bad. And everything about them looking bad is deserved and provably true. Mitt Romney, John McCain, gee whiz, any of these other clowns out there, Republicans, would never fit into a video like this. This is a one-of-a-kind type of man and a one-of-a-kind type of presentation. And so it's going to piss off a lot of people who don't like Donald Trump, but that's just kind of too bad. Yeah. All right. So the Kelsey and Taylor Swift relationship is now again front and center as people are mumbling about it now. Stephen A. Smith is one of them. I'll break that down for you. I'm not quite sure. Well, I'll get into that later. And speaking of Republicans, there's yet another list, and it's promoted on the Drudge Report and everything else, of 100 Republicans who are saying they don't like Donald Trump. They're going to vote for Kamala Harris. Like we care. Like it matters. Believe me, as I've stated before, when it comes to the election, Donald Trump, and I've said this before and you've heard me say it again, Donald Trump is going to win this thing without Republicans. You just saw, as we talked about today, with the polling numbers and the Teamsters, you can't keep a lid on this anymore. The Teamsters overwhelmingly supporting Trump in their rank and file, and black voters, Hispanic voters, legal immigrants, all those people who maybe haven't voted even Republican before are going to vote Republican this time around, but they're not really voting Republican as much as they are voting Trump. I'll have more on that, and of course, a little bit of this celebrity stuff with Taylor Swift and Kelsey on the other side of this. This is the Allman Report. Happy Wednesday evening to all of you. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL. Happy Wednesday evening to all of you and yours. And thank you so much for listening to the show and for being with me. Hope it's a great way to kind of wrap up your evening time. Some of the stuff off the grid, too, I intended to be that way. And so I hope you appreciate it. Before I get to the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift thing that Stephen A. Smith is talking about, I want to get to this because I didn't expect Gavin Newsom to be serious when he said this after this parody video about Kamala Harris went viral. And the video's really good. You guys have probably heard it by now. And after the video, Gavin Newsom said, I'm going to sign into law a ban on videos like this and deep fakes and everything else. I'm thinking, oh, shut up. You're never going to do that. Well, first, here's the video.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant. Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time. Another trick is trying to sound black. I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and in my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. And okay, look, maybe my work addressing the root causes of the border crisis were catastrophic, but my knowledge of international politics is truly shocking. The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. It is an alliance that is strong and enduring. And just remember, when voting this November, it is important to see what can be unburdened by what has been. And by what has been, I mean Joe Biden. Do you think the country went to over the past 4 years? You ain't seen nothing yet.
So anyway, that's the viral video that went out there. You probably have seen it, obviously, by now. So afterwards, Governor Gavin Newsom of California said, I am going to outlaw this. And everybody thought he was joking. Like, kind of like just saying that it would never happen. Well, check this out. Gavin Newsom just signed a bill, first of its kind, deep fake law, after this parody went out. In a post on the X platform, Newsom confirmed that he had signed the bill after Elon Musk shared the anti-Kamala video using an altered version of her voice. That didn't sound very altered to me. So here's how it's going to roll out. The new California law, which will take effect before the November election, channels rising alarm about our artificial intelligence capacity to disrupt elections by sowing misinformation, with voters increasingly confronted with deepfake images and audio impersonating candidates. Musk, who owns X, stoked that debate when he shared the AI-altered video of Harris in July, drawing Newsom's public promise to prohibit similar practices. So Newsom said, I could care less if it was Harris or Trump. Of course, that's not true. And he claims this is just for everybody. But the reality is, first of all, this parody ad, no one who supports Kamala Harris is going to believe that it's real. The assumption based on all these people who freak out about AI, and certainly there have been some pretty good AI productions that are like, wow, I couldn't tell whether that was real or fake or what have you. But this is fake, and you could tell it's fake. I mean, there aren't too many people except for really stupid people who are going to look at that and going, oh, she just said that? I can't believe it. I'm not going to vote for her now. That's not the case. Usually it's just for entertainment purposes for people like you and me, because it's funny and it's real and it's fantastic. I mean, it's really entertaining and it's pretty darn good too. And so it really isn't also, by the way, an altered version of her voice. It is her voice. It's just what they're doing is they're taking snippets and cadences and things like that and creating her voice, which is scary to be, for sure. I mean, if you're in public and you can do that and have people mimic your voice as you saying something really, really bad or maybe They fake a phone call to somebody with your voice, whatever. It's really, really disturbing if you're using it really to harm somebody. But this isn't harming anybody. It's just entertainment. But Gavin Newsom has outlawed it because that's what dictators do. They don't want any other information out there. They don't want anything out there because they have no sense of humor, first of all. And the deep fake thing has been done to Donald Trump countless times, and none of us have ever bought it. We know it's all, for the most part, it's entertaining. Yeah, it can be dangerous. I mean, lots of things can be dangerous. I mean, you can hack into accounts, you can create parody accounts, you can do all this kind of stuff and hurt somebody that way. But so far, not many people have really truly been harmed by AI, and I'm not really that scared of it. In fact, I think the possibilities are endless. I know what's happening in some cases though, especially, for instance, with disc jockeys who just do music tracking and that kind of stuff. You could actually take somebody's voice or a voice and even alter it and monitor it, and you could actually just have a DJ that really doesn't exist. I mean, you couldn't do this show, for instance, with AI. You couldn't do any of that. It would be way too laborious, and there's no way you'd be able to pull it off. But in some cases, if you're just doing kind of music stuff, things like that. So if I'm in that business, I'm a little bit concerned about stuff like that, but otherwise, not a big deal. Speaking of not a big deal, I wonder sometimes whether or not the angst over the Travis Kelce, the Chiefs' relationship with pop sensation Taylor Swift is really that big of a deal. And I wonder whether the people who criticize it are really just kind of jealous, I think that when people find love, it's a wonderful thing. I don't care who it is, and they found it, apparently, and that's just how it goes. Well, Kelce didn't have that great of a game. I think he caught one pass in that Bengals game that the Chiefs darn near lost. It's kind of the second time the Chiefs have almost lost a game. I mean, they almost lost to Baltimore, and had it not been for this poor footing by this rookie tight end, Likely, who, by the way, I grabbed up right away from my fantasy football team, had kept his feet in, they would have probably won the game because they would have gotten that 2-point conversion, and the Chiefs would have lost. They almost lost this game against the Bengals. Had it not been for Harrison Butker, who I also recruited on my fantasy football team. And what's crazy is I think some people in the league didn't choose him because of his public statements and because he looks like he's a conservative. So I actually was able to grab him up. Anyway, this is Stephen A. Smith. And by the way, I don't think it's really any of his business. And I think that to blame Kelce's performance, I mean, everybody kind of has off times or whatever, on some love relationship is a little gratuitous. And I wonder if Stephen A. Smith would do this if it were like a black guy. And I know Stephen A. Smith talks a lot about race, does all this kind of stuff. I really don't trust him all that much. I think has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. But I wonder if this relationship would be as analyzed if it were a black player. And I think as well as I do, the answer is no, it wouldn't be. Here's Stephen A. Smith on what it looks like ESPN.
I love my brother from another mother, Travis Kelce. We saw more Taylor Swift than we saw Travis Kelce yesterday on a Sunday afternoon. And any other time that's applicable. That ain't supposed to happen yesterday. We supposed to see more Travis Kelce yesterday than we saw her. That's not happening. You got to get it going, bro. You got 39 receiving yards in the first 2 games. Come on now. It's time. Football season is here. Honeymoon's over. Let's handle our business, okay?
Now, the one problem and the fallacy of Stephen A. Smith's argument is that when he says we saw more of Taylor Swift than we saw of Travis Kelce, I know he was meaning that we didn't see much of him doing much on the field, but the choice of seeing Taylor Swift is a choice of the networks. I mean, that's just is their obsession, and of course you're putting on a television broadcast and a television show with a football game, and that's what you do. You create a lot of things around the game itself, and I don't blame these guys for showing Taylor. She's one of the biggest stars in the country right now, and maybe even in history to a certain degree, in at least modern history. And so, of course, you're going to show her. And so, the idea that somehow we saw more of her than we saw of Travis Kelce, I get the idea there, where it says, well, he should have been more prolific on the field, or that kind of thing. I get that part of it, but the two don't relate to each other, because the choice of Travis Kelce in whatever way he's playing is different than the choice of a network deciding where they're going to point their camera. So anyway, he goes on.
Got a situation, Xavier Worthy. Everybody's raving about him. All right. What did the Bengals? I forgot the dude that called him out, but he was like, I'm not worried about this, brother. He's fast. He's fast. There you go. He said he's fast or what have you, but what's he going to do? We'll find out. And what happens? 2 catches for 17 yards. 2 catches for 17 yards, okay? Rasheed Rice had 5 catches for 75 yards, so that's good. That's a spectacular interception right there. That brother talked before the game and then went out on the field and backed it up. So give credit where credit is due. You're absolutely right. The Bengals outplayed Kansas City. Kansas City lucked up. The pass interference call was the right call, et cetera, et cetera. But what I'm thinking about is this. You look at a Travis Kelce, you look at Xavier Worthy, you're talking about 3 receptions for 22 yards, and they managed to win this game. Yeah. You're not supposed to win that game when something like that happens for you on the offensive side of the ball. By the way, Patrick Mahomes, the Michael Jordan of this sport, got his 17th in QBR over the first 2 games of this season. He has not been spectacular. So I'm looking at all of those different things, and I'm saying something's got to give. Make no mistake about that. But in the end, you know what? Cincinnati did play better, but they weren't able to close the deal. And if you're Burrow, it really resonates, because the man was on the verge of being 4-1.
Anyway, so his point is that the honeymoon needs to be over, and there needs to be less of this focus on the Kelce-Taylor Swift thing. But that's not Travis Kelce's fault. And listen, the Chiefs are playing kind of a different game than they played last year. You can't get all those things in gear. I guarantee you, after these last 2 games that they almost lost, things are going to change and things are going to be different. But picking on Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce is something that I don't buy into. And I'm glad they have a relationship, as I would be glad for anybody to have a positive relationship. And I think Stephen A. Smith is out of his lane in going after him. All right, so do you guys remember the situation regarding that Titan submersible? And when all those people died as that thing went down and then just simply scrunched them all up in the deep sea. Well, there's now some new information about how that all went down, and really disturbing information about what was going on in the run-up to this thing. I'll bring that to you, plus those 100 Republicans who decided to sign a list. It's like these guys always do this. We're going to sign a list, 100 of us, saying how much we love Kamala Harris and despise Donald Trump. So I'll bring that to you, too. This is the Allman Report on this beautiful Wednesday evening. Thank you very much for listening.
You're listening to the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Allman Report on NewsTalkSTL. Common sense conservative radio for you. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Please like and share as much as you possibly can, no matter what the social media platform is that you are on. So thank you very much for listening to the show. I want to kind of get your feel of what you think about this. I am for it. You all might have legit reasons to be against it, I'm sure, but I want to ask you about this. So this sheriff decides he's fed up with this string of false school shooting threats. So the sheriff in Florida, he made this warning last week and said, I don't care how old you are. I don't care what the situation is. I'm going to expose you and put you out there if you do these false school shooting threats, because you're terrorizing everybody. You are creating havoc for thousands of families, and you are creating fear for thousands of families as well. You're changing their lives in a highly negative way. And so if I don't care who you are, I'm going to expose you. So he followed through on that, and he released a mugshot of an 11-year-old who's accused of making threats to commit a mass shooting at a middle school. And Mike Chitwood is his name, and he said that minors who threaten school violence will be showcased for public embarrassment. He will have, they'll have their names and arrest photos made public. And the announcement came after local authorities received 54 school threat tips last week through this Fortify Florida, which is an app that allows people to make reports of suspicious activity. And they worked around the clock. The resources that were spent on trying to find out what was really going on, they worked around the clock only to find out that these tips were all false. So all the manpower, all the tax dollars, everything else included in this cost authorities close to $25,000 just to do the work to suddenly find out that these things were false. And so what Sheriff Chitwood did, is he released the full name, mugshot, and a video of the 11-year-old boy being escorted to a jail cell. He released it all on social media. And, of course, the people in the news media are not identifying him because he is a minor. That is something that many of these journalistic operations decided was going to be their rule. There really isn't necessarily a law that prevents them from releasing mugshots. It's their policy. And again, I don't know what you think about this. I think that it's absolutely appropriate. And I do think that there are some kids who are much older than their age suggests mentally and everything else. And I think that if they're able to do this kind of thing at this kind of level, then they ought to be exposed. I mean, can be a slippery slope, and I think that there are minors who should be protected in some cases, depending on what happens, depending on their mental state and all that kind of thing. But I think in this particular instance, this absolutely was totally appropriate, and I completely agree with what he did, and I think maybe more of that ultimately needs to be done in order to teach people a lesson. And I guarantee you that the release of the mugshot and, of course, on social media, the video being released and everything else, that has an impact on middle schoolers when they know that's happening, because they've seen it on social media by this time and like, ooh, crap. Now I know I won't be protected if I pull something stupid like this. So that's a good thing. And I don't know what you think about it, but I think actually it is an improvement. And it, again, tells you something about Florida and the take no prisoners attitude of many of the officials there. And I think it's a good thing. All right. Here's another thing. It wasn't 100. I said it was 100 earlier. No, it's 111 Republicans who have released a letter to the public. This is what they do, you know. And then they release the letter to the public, and then all of them want to be interviewed by the New York Times or, you know, by television, because that's what happens is they release the letter to the public with their names on it, and suddenly they're made into stars on ABC, NBC, CNN, and MSNBC and all the other outlets, including Fox News. And so they all immediately get that ego feeding by the news media after they put their names up because, wow, so off the grid that they are against Donald Trump and for Kamala Harris. So it's 111 of them. And you remember back in the day, it was 150 deep staters. It was 100 and this and, 75 that and all this nonsense these guys release these letters. So some of the names on there you'll find are usual suspects in this whole thing. Two former defense secretaries, Chuck Hagel and William Cohen. Robert Zellick, who's the former president of the World Bank. So basically, it's just a bunch of list of a bunch of deep state Republican creeps is what it is. You have the former CIA director, Michael Hayden, who is an absolute traitor to this country. And aside from being a person who I'm sure has been behind so many nefarious things that have happened to citizens in the United States, William Webster is another former CIA director. The former director of national intelligence, John Negroponte, and former Governor William Weld of Massachusetts, and Miles Taylor. Miles Taylor is the deep state geek who was the one who wrote that op-ed in the New York Times, remember? And everybody thought it was some high-level guy. And apparently, the New York Times was okay with saying he was high-level, even though he wasn't high-level. These people were in the Trump administration. Olivia Troya is another one. Two people who were responsible for various leaks and that kind of thing against Donald Trump while they were in the administration. Now, I was really glad to hear, because I was talking to my buddy Eric Swanson from Newsteaders Jewelers yesterday, because he was plugged into Steve Bannon. And one of the great, and by the way, this is, nobody cares. Nobody cares about these people. All these chino pants wearing deep state Republican creeps are what they are. And they can go around and prance around in their loafers all day they want to, but nobody's really caring. No real people care. They don't even know who John Negroponte is. I mean, I do, you do, but nobody knows who the hell he is. So they all signed this letter, but nobody in the end really cares. But Steve Bannon said something that was very heartening the other day when he said they have hundreds of people who are now in training, being vetted, and are ready to go to be part of a brand new Trump administration. And these people are people that can be trusted, that are going to be trusted. And so what happened in 2016 to Donald Trump and the people he invited into his administration, according to Steve Bannon, is not going to happen again. Because all these people at one point or another touched the Trump administration or were partly involved in it. And so those days are over, says Steve Bannon. And I believe him. And I'm absolutely glad. Trump needs to be extra careful if he's reelected about people who are in his administration. And I guarantee you that he will be. I don't think there's any question on the planet that he will not be more focused and the people around him more focused on getting a circle that has people that are trusted. So this letter is going to make you have angst. Some people are like, I don't know. What about those 111 Republicans? Nobody cares. The people are coming out of the woodwork in support of Donald Trump who aren't showing up necessarily even in polls. They're not writing letters to the public. They're just going to be voting. And I think that could be something that will ease any kind of angst you might have over all these Republicans. You guys who listen to this show, you know by now, you don't care about this. You don't worry about these people. I did want to let you know who they are and let you know this is another example of the untrustworthiness of these people. And really, it's the deep state. They're all deep state spooks and reps. And so it just confirms what we already knew about the deep state. And that is they don't want Donald Trump to be president at all costs. And, of course, this comes out right after the assassination attempt. It's unbelievable. These people have no souls at all. All right, want to follow up, as I promised you, on the Titan submersible. As you know, this was happened a couple years ago, and they have some new deep-sea footage. This was actually not a couple years. It was last June. Sorry. It was a year ago. This deep-sea footage shows the submersible's severed tail cone resting on the ocean floor. And this was full-on. It wasn't destroyed because it wasn't pressurized, so it didn't crumple and crinkle like everything else on the submersible did, which is another indication of the problems that they had. So the Coast Guard Marine Board, the Board of Investigation, released the footage, and this was part of an ongoing public hearing over what happened. So 5 passengers died, and this was clearly a foolhardy voyage. And so what they've determined, based on discussions with people, and this is really shocking, more than 100 issues were recorded on the vessel in the years leading up to the implosion. The ship suffered 70 equipment issues in 2021 and 48 equipment issues in 2022. The company that ran the Titan, called OceanGate, Tony Nissen is a former engineer and director. He said in testimony that he and other staffers would bring up these issues to CEO Stockton Rush, who was one of those killed in the implosion, and he'd brush their concerns aside. He'd argue with them. Some people were fired and after clashing with him, and it was basically a matter of the company and Stockton Rush doing things basically totally on the cheap, trying to cut corners. And the saddest part about all this is that I guarantee you Rush knew about all these situations with this submersible, but the other people who died didn't know anything about it, which is really a shame. Bless their souls. I mean, everybody was like, some more darker people were like, well, hey, these rich people playing around, this is what they get. It's like, no, these people had no idea the danger they were getting into. Really super sad. And this is only going to get crazier as we get more into this investigation. But it was really super sad. But now we know that this was just a matter of doing things on the cheap and not caring about anything except your ego, and people died as a result. Anyway, hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening. Ethan Valencia, thank you a ton, and thank you all for listening to the show.